Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. Well, the world's clock is in dire need of a good service back at the factory, that's for sure. And I hope you're all taking good care of yourselves. Let's have a thought for the people who don't have the luxury of working from home. And here in Hong Kong, the situation is pretty good. Most of the new cases we get mainly come from people coming back from Europe. But anyway, I wanted to show you today something a bit more joyful. Since many of you are maybe at home, you're probably enjoying your watches. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to show you 5 watches from my collection, which all have something a bit special compared to the regular model of the range for each brand. I have 5 different brands here. And first, I want to share with you this beautiful watch from a colleague of mine. Last time he showed me his Patek annual calendar chronograph. And yesterday he had on the wrist this FP Jaune. I believe this is the chronomètre souverain with power reserve, small seconds. It's a platinum watch. It wears very, very flat. Notice that the original strap, of very good quality, of course, is straight. There's no taper to it. The design language of FP Jaune by now is really established. And I guess if you've been through Rolex, and if you moved on to Patek, you've been through that, then you wanted something more exclusive and you got the longer. I guess FP Jaune is the next step. They don't make many any given year, so especially not many of every model. And then the black labels are obviously very popular and hard to find, and you need to have purchased something else before. All right, let's move on now to those watches in the box. Speaking of longer, Longer is very famous for the Longer One, which has its own very specific design language. There's the Cipher. They have been so productive in the past 20 years, it just puts everyone in the Holy Trinity to shame, really. Then they have the 1815 collection, which is a bit more of a classic looking style. There, the chronograph is probably better known, the up-down is better known. But here I have the annual calendar. The watch that really spoke to me. It wears also very flat, like the watch I just showed you from FP Jaune. Very German, very different style here. And so here you have the annual calendar. I had to adjust it only at the end of February, well, on the 1st of March, really. And you've seen this watch on my channel, of course. I'm not going to go into every detail, but the winding is supremely satisfying, very soft, with just the right resistance. 3 days of power reserve, I find it more useful than an automatic watch with 2 days of power reserve. It's also one of the reasons why I preferred it over an annual calendar from Patek when I made my choice for this watch as my dress watch annual calendar. You can let it run down anytime, pick it up a few days later. The side pusher here, which also has a great feel to it, will readjust everything by increments of 1. The day, the date, and the moon phase, which here is, as you can see, is made of white gold. Stunning watch. The hour and minute hands really pop, so it's very easy to read it. And then you dig into the details of the watch. It's true that the day and the date are slightly cluttered, sharing the same subdial, but it's fine. At least the information it's there. Some people don't like the apertures. This is a bit more elegant, but I think the apertures are a bit more difficult to accomplish. The only regret I have with this watch is that it says annual calendar, which is redundant. Instead, I would have loved to have power reserve on this watch. And it would be criminal of me not to show you the back of it. Since we're here to enjoy life, enjoy our watches. There you go. You know all the hallmarks of a longer watch. At every price level, you're going to get this beautiful finish. If you want a watch that's very much like this in the back and in the style, look into a used 1815 up-down model. So that's the small seconds power reserve model. You'll get the style, and also at the back it will look very similar to this. And then when we talk about classics, we think about Patek Calatrava, classic dress watches. But there's Calatrava and there's Calatrava. And this 5134 travel time is probably the one of the most interesting Calatravas you can have. It almost have a regulator dial actually, because you have a dial for the hours and the seconds at the bottom, and then you have the minute hand. But obviously you have also the local hour and home time on the dial. And if you want to clean it up, well, you can just use the pushers, and there you go. And when you travel, you can just so I tend to use it like this as a GMT watch. I track the European hours, so it's almost 10 a.m. in Europe, and it's 4 p.m. here in Hong Kong. I like something interesting on my watch. So a simple Calatrava, nothing wrong. It's great, beautiful. This one with the crown guard here and the side pushers, you have extra, because they're fairly small at 37 millimeter. It fills the wrist a bit more, and the dial has a lot of play with the light. I love when the light is a bit yellowish, so the dial gets more golden really. And it's also a manual wind, very voluptuous case, white gold as well, like the longer. Quite a different design language. In the back is a traditional hand wind movement based from Patek, the 215 caliber. And I like this strap. It's comfortable. Obviously the Calatrava cross there on the deploy and clasp. It's classy, right? Now speaking of calendar, this one is not an annual or perpetual, but nevertheless it does give you that Patek calendar or chronograph look, so references like the 5270. And this is the Zenith Chronomaster. It came out at the same time as when Zenith was providing El Primeros to Rolex to put in the Daytona. Very modified, slower beat, because here you have a 36,000 beats per hour high beat caliber, of course, the classic El Primero. But on top of it, they add the full calendar. And here you have the aperture, so it's easier to read at a glance. And I will start for you the chronograph. Column wheel, lateral clutch. You can see, and you can see the reset here, the resetting hammers. 410 caliber base, 410Z. This one is not really decorated, not much, unlike some other editions of the El Primero. There are far less of these than of the Zenith Daytonas. It's only 38, maybe 39 millimeter in diameter. So it wears great, very, very classic on the wrist. It's a stunning piece. Doesn't cost you too much. This one was only 3,000 US for me. Usually they trade a bit more, a bit higher than that, maybe 4,000 or 5,000. You might prefer the more modern ones. I think this one is a bit more interesting. All right, moving on. So Jaeger-LeCoultre is very famous for many things, but extremely famous for the reverso and the alarm complication, the Memovox. So this one here comes in a rose gold. It's a limited edition, 250 pieces worldwide of the Memovox International, also known as the World Time. So you get the date and you get the World Time disc. If you want to know how to use it, you can. I will refer you to my previous video from last month about this watch, which is a fairly thick watch, maybe 13, maybe 14 millimeters. But actually, I got really used to it, and well, it's a lot of gold. It's my only rose gold piece in my collection. It's very rich gold again. In person, it looks a lot richer than here on the video. And the alarm sounds great. It's very usable, and it's master control, obviously caliber. So it's gone through intensive testing, and this watch runs exactly on time. Quite amazing. Although it hasn't, I don't think it's had a full overhaul in a few years. The watch is loomed. Really a great watch. You can wear it every day. You can travel with it. It's gonna wake you up. You're never gonna meet someone with the same watch. You might meet someone with the steel version, but this one, and it feels great to have a watch that's a bit different than the crowd, and yet it's a very well-known brand and a very well-known model line. And then let's finish by the best-known brand, obviously, Rolex. This is the Sea Dweller 4000, as it is known. So it's an in-between between the classic 16600 model and the current version, which is bigger, 43 millimeters with maxi case, maxi dial, everything. Here you have the maxi dial, you have the ceramic, you have the glide lock, you have the modern clasp. What you don't have is big fat lugs. I mean, they're not thin, but they're not as big as, say, the one of the current Submariner. So it wears quite petite on the wrist, which makes it very interesting. Here you don't have the Cyclops, so it's great for purists of the Sea Dweller. Makes the watch very symmetrical. Also, adding to the symmetry compared to the Submariner, which only has the 0 to 15 graduation. Here the whole bezel is graduated with little dots and the lines from 0 to 15. It's also a bit curvy here on the side, quite sexy, and it's really not that thick. If you compare it to the Sub, it's just a little bit thicker, and you have a thicker crystal because of the depth that this watch is capable of reaching. So really one of the most collectible modern Rolex. I think it's still worth picking that up. These trade for less than what the green Submariner, the Hulk, trades for. I really enjoy this watch. I wore it the whole of last weekend. After 5 years, it's still running exactly on time. And if you leave it down, it might gain 1 or 2 seconds overnight. But I was wearing it at night as well, and it's really perfectly adjusted still. It's definitely my favorite Rolex, and I would definitely recommend anyone who's been interested in a Sea Dweller to pick it up. If your budget can't stretch that far, you know, the $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, look into the previous model, the pre-ceramic. Beautiful watch, even a bit more petite than this, smaller lug certainly. The 16600. Nothing against the Sub, obviously. The Sub is fantastic. That's the benchmark. But if you want, here we're talking about a bit special watches. This is a bit more special. And I like that you have the date without the Cyclops. It's a clean look. It's a slightly different look, and it's a bit more special. And I think that's one thing we can enjoy. I love having, you know, the classics like the Explorer, the Speedmaster. I love my classic. I wear them all the time. But it's also very enjoyable to have something a bit special on the wrist, and if you like talking with your friends about watches, then that's the kind of thing you'd like to have in your collection. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're staying cool, staying safe. You have everything you need, and good time to enjoy our families, our kids. And let's hope we get through the whole crisis very soon. And let me know what you're doing in the comments. Let me know what you're doing. If you're working from home, are you really working? Let us know. Or maybe not. Maybe be careful. Your employer might be looking at this video. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.